Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we've got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's talk about what's happening as college students from across the country are calling for colleges to divest from Israel. Yep, there are these protests happening on big and small colleges, and students are saying enough is enough and that we need to sever ties with Israel. So we're going to talk about that. Also, later on, we're going to check in with our sister Trinette Collier to talk about Harvey Weinstein's conviction being overturned and what does that mean for sexual assault victims to speak up as we continue to do our part to honor this month's celebration and awareness campaign about sexual assault. We'll have that. And later on, we'll check in with Paul Corrine McCall from Sankofa Bridge to talk about how their work of empowering youth is changing lives and perspectives on cultural experience. So we're going to have those conversations. Of course, crew, I would love to hear what you got to say. Join us in the chat as we're streaming on Roland Martin's YouTube page and his Facebook page. And stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Woo! All right, folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. I am so grateful that you are joining me. Today is Thursday, April the 25th, and I can't thank you enough for being a part of the conversation. Folks, if you haven't heard and if you haven't checked in yet, make sure you do your due diligence. Go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on all social media platforms at Black Star Network. And of course, we ask for your financial donation to support us in this great effort as we are carving a space for Black content, Black conversations, and so much more here in the digital space. So again, go to our website at blackstarnetwork.com. Please give, and we thank you for your fantastic donations. Now, folks, today we're streaming on Big Brother Roland Martin's Facebook page, on his social media pages. So we are on his Facebook page, as well as on his YouTube chat. And big shout out to all of the culture crew members. There you go. Thank y'all so much for being with us here on the X platform. You're on YouTube, you're on Facebook. Let me see who's on YouTube right here, right now. Let's see, let's check in with y'all. As I see y'all, Deidre Hall, I see you. Deidre, thank you so much. Hey, culture crew. Hey, Deidre, thank you for joining us once again. The ABX girl, I see you. Cindy D, I see you. Jared Wilson, thank you so much for checking in right there. Mawa Dali, thank you so much for checking in. You said good afternoon to all the conscious minds out there. I love that. I love that. Good afternoon to you, too. Thank you so much. My brother, Pastor Damon Blissett, thank you so much. My sister Tiana, my man Willie Frazier, thank you for checking in. Cindy D, I see you. Lana always bringing some fire and some heat with the emojis. Thank you so much, Lana, for your continued support and love. You don't like my music? You said let's go out with a bang. You don't like my music. I hear that. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Intense situation. Yes. Thank you for joining the chat. And I'm so happy that you're joining me. I am really happy that you're joining me in Intense Situation. I expect to hear some stuff from you as well. Brian Christian, thank you so much for checking in. Official Sanika, thank you so much for checking in as well. Karen Connor, my sister, thank you. Life Coach D, what up, sir? What up, Life Coach D? I'm good. How are you? I hope you're having a fantastic afternoon. And so many of you are still coming into the chat. But again, once again, thank you so much for being in the chat. And let's get ready for the conversations. All right, let's do this. I got my brother Sinedu Wakorfor. He's going to be joining me in a moment. We're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about what's happening on college campuses all across the country. I got some pictures to share with you, courtesy of NBC News. Plus, we're going to talk a little bit about their latest call, not just talking about stopping or calling for a ceasefire in this Israel-Gaza situation, this conflict, but they're even calling for colleges to divest their support from the state of Israel. I'm gonna break it down to you what that means and the implications of it with my brother Sinedu, and of course with you. Stay with us. It's The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Woo!
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Let me bring my brother in, Brother Sinead. We're going to do this one more again, Brother Sinead. One more time. Chopping it up, talking about the issues. And today, I looking at how the show is moving forward and all of those good things, I was like, let me get something juicy for my brother to check in with and put his teeth in. And this situation on college campuses, Brother Sinead, is rocking the country. We're seeing students, we're seeing activists, we're seeing all types of folks who are descending on these college campuses. And more importantly, they are speaking out, making their voices known. This is some of the images, courtesy of NBC News, that we've been seeing all across the country. These are images from all across the country, from places from Columbia University, Emerson College, Barnard, and many other places all across this country where students are involved in pro-Palestinian protests. And of course, wanted to express their disapproval with how the Biden-Harris administration has been handling this whole situation with Israel and Gaza. And Brother Sinead, yesterday we talked about the fact that the president signed a major bill that was a $95.3 billion package. Most of that money is going to foreign aid to folks in Ukraine. Is getting about $60 billion to help with military there. And then for the state of Israel, they're getting 26 billion, and Ukraine is getting 60 billion. But Israel is getting 26 billion. There's an additional $1 billion for humanitarian efforts for those who are affected by the bombing. But it doesn't bode well with the next generation of college students and young leaders, as they're taken to the street and saying, yeah, being a part of this war, a lot of pro-Palestinian folks, Muslims and Arabs and Palestinians are saying, you know what, this is not working for us. This is not working for us. So they're expressing a disapproval. And over these past few days, we've been seeing this in big colleges, small colleges, whites, blacks, on all groups of people. And now they're calling for the divestment of these colleges to remove funding or any type of financial support from the state of Israel. Take a look at this. This is checking in. Let's put this first quote up. This is from NBC News, where they're saying divestment usually refers to selling shares in companies doing business with a given country. Divestment has long been a goal of a movement that seeks to limit what it considers hostile operations by Israel and an end to expanding what the United Nations has ruled are illegal settlements. Like many universities, Columbia being one of the top universities that are under scrutiny, Columbia owns shares of various companies as part of its financial operations and endowment. However, information on Columbia's exact holdings was not immediately available and was not clear whether investment information published by Columbia University Apartheid Divest, the group leading the protests at the school, was accurate. Brother Sinead, you work in the field of diversity, equity, inclusion. You've been working in the field of human rights and activism. Talk to me. What's your take on this as students are calling for this divestment to happen?
Well, as a student protester myself, I will say shout out to the students. I'm proud that the students are standing up for what they believe in and living up to the true nature of what America is about, freedom of speech, freedom of expression. But I find a couple of things interesting about what is going on. And I always tell people, take your personal feelings out against and look at the numbers. So you just said that there was a $95 billion funding bill that went to aid Ukraine, Taiwan for the national security reasons, and Israel. And I think a lot of people are upset with Israel because of what they're doing, and that is all valid. But I think it's really important to see Israel is a modern economy. It confuses me to what we're funding. We're talking about a country that has the second largest amount of startups in the world outside of the US, that has the third largest amount of tech companies on the NASDAQ after the US and China, a country that's GDP has continued to grow exponentially for the last 40 years. It just perplexes me that they need aid. They have a wonderful tech sector. They have a nuclear triad. There are European countries that don't have that. So what perplexes me beyond just the war itself is the idea that they need our help. Their health sector is very good. Their infrastructure sector is very good. And as you can see with the CHIPS and Science Acts, we need help in that area in America. So I just find it interesting to why they need aid, AID, why a country as prosperous as Israel is in need of America's help. And funny enough, if you remember the Ukraine war in the very beginning, our former president, Donald Trump, 45, made a point to say, hey, why isn't Europe giving Ukraine all of the aid that it needs? Why must we be that person? But I feel like that talk turns cold as it pertains to Israel. And when you look at the benefits that Israel is offering the world juxtaposed to Ukraine, it's just interesting that a country so diverse, it's like giving aid to the United Kingdom. Where is the sense there? That has been my issue here, primarily beyond what's going on with the war, is how do we end up paying for a country to stabilize themselves when we in ourselves, judging by the credit rating of this country, the GDP of this country, we need our own stabilization. So I'm just confused in that aspect.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think a lot of Americans are confused around that same issue, though, Brother Sinedu. You know what I'm saying? And here's what I'm seeing. America has been supporting Israel for how many years now, bro? 40, 50 years? Almost since its inception.
I was about to say.
America has been the number one supporter, right? But now I think that people are waking up. And let me just be very, very clear. Just because you're standing out against the war in Israel and Gaza doesn't mean that you're anti-Jewish. I think we need to be clear about that. This is not anti-Semitic talk or rhetoric or something. Oh, you hate Jews. No, it's not that. What we're looking at is we're looking at what we're looking at, and we're seeing it for what it actually is. It was a horrific thing for Hamas to make the attack on October the 7th of last year. But you now look at how many people have been displaced, how many lives have been lost in this latest campaign that Israel has moved forward on. It starts to look like apples and oranges. And this is not about being hateful against a group of people. It's about coming to a consensus and an understanding to try to figure out the best way to move forward, right? But you can't, when you're talking about some of these global powers, Brother Sinedu, and we're going to take our next pause, but when you're talking about these global powers, you got to look at, okay, are these policies that are coming from these global powers, are they conducive for the sustainability, the preservation of life, for not just for their people, but for their neighbors? If the United States had people on the West Coast, on the sides, on both the East and the West Coast, you have to be considerate. You have to be, and then the other part of it is, what does justice look like in a situation like this? And that's where the United Nations and other countries come together and have that conversation. But the problem is that even though you might have South African leadership and going to the United Nations and saying this is an issue of genocide, even though you might have the American people saying, look, we need to reevaluate our relationship with Israel and its powers. Even though you got all of this global feedback, Israel has not stopped the bombing. They have not succumbed to the pressure. They are moving clearly forward, and it lets us know that there is something else in their mind. This is not just about what happened on October the 7th. This is about something deeper, something more crazy. I mean, it's just something that's different. And I think that we have to look at that. And the last thing I would want us to see, Brother Sinead, is we getting pulled into another situation. And I'm saying as a country, we got to get pulled in, and we possibly will have boots on the ground. And that's our people. That's our people. That's Black folks. That's poor whites. That's Latinos. That's the American people, man. That's the American people. For what? For what? All right, so look, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue to talk about this. Crew, I would love to get your take on this. I see some of you have already commented in the chat. Look, let's continue this conversation as we're talking about students urging colleges to divest from Israel. I'm going to share with you some more details, but what's your take on this? Do you believe that the students are calling for something that's reasonable, realistic, and that's good? Share your thoughts, and we would love to raise those points up. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Game on. State of the Union 2024. Huge night for President Joe Biden.
This was a CBS receipts type of night.
He dragged the hell out of the Supreme Court. And he said, y'all gonna see the power of women.
Trump's brain is melting as we speak.
We want to organize from a place of strength.
There's no confusion whatsoever about what they've done and what they plan to do.
What Donald Trump is doing is presenting a fallacy.
He is convincing them that he's all in it for them, when in fact he's all in it for himself.
We do not feel Joe Biden, in spite of the success that have taken place during this administration economically. There are too many things where we do not feel like he's had our back.
You should also be investing in the barbershops and the beauty salons and the hookah bars and the folks who are going to the club, and there's a way to actually get them registered because we've done it before. But if you don't have folks who understand that dynamic, then you're missing a big opportunity.
So we said we just celebrated. For what? Why did you go to celebrate rather than recommit yourself to the fight if the very thing we went to celebrate has been gutted?
Republicans did not support a lot of the bills that were necessary to keep the country fluid. You can't only love your country when you win it, right?
Oh, no. You guys don't want another $2 trillion tax cut?
This was absolutely the knockdown, drag out that we were really waiting for.
Black voters are the base. They're the most important base of the Democratic Party. There was very few language in this speech. At the time, we see an attack on Black history, attack on DEI. The end of the BLM racial reckoning thing has come to a complete end because there was nothing in this speech for that.
Our movement has never been grounded in two-party politics in this country. All of our movements ultimately get co-opted by a state that is anti-Black.
They called the old because they knew the way, and they called the young because they were strong. And I believe there is a good combination of that, but we can have ideas and we can have visions and dreams, but we have to have our young people also working beside us because they are strong, and they will run that race, and they will run it to the end.
Activists, organizers, and young people have been pushing this administration to be on the right side of history and to do something about the issues that they care about.
While the Ukraine and Palestine are critical issues, they are not the only global issues.
Not a single Black person who should ever let it come out their mouth that I'm tired. Because there is somebody else who came before us who didn't stop fighting.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. I'm joined by my brother and culture contributor, my brother Shinedu Wakwafo, who's the diversity, equity, and inclusion specialist, as well as an activist and human rights advocate, talking about this latest development as students are protesting all across the country in their support for pro-Palestine stance in this Israel-Gaza conflict. And I want to show some pictures. Let's just throw some pictures up there, please, Lisa, of what the students have been going. There have been hundreds of arrests across the country, not just of students either, but also of professors, also of folks from the community. And of course, when you have these type of large-scale demonstrations happening, you're going to draw a lot of people in. So this is not just a student thing. This is a collective of people who are showing their disdain and their disapproval of how the Biden-Harris administration has been handling this conflict. And with this latest package of $26 billion going to the state of Israel, people are wondering, is the U.S., this is going to put the U.S. in a position of being more complicit with Israel's view and stance versus standing on the side of the humanitarian crisis, even though there was money allocated for that too, $1 billion coming from this $95 billion package. But I'm wondering, and we played that piece that passed where Pastor Jamal Bryant said, this is not a single issue voting situation. This is not about one single issue, but for these students, for those who are on the grounds, those who are protesting, this is the issue. How do we reconcile that, though, Brother Shinedu? Because we are in a campaign season. This is an election time. How do we kind of make amends with the fact that, you know, this is an important issue, but it's not the only issue. And so you kind of may have to compromise on what you're standing for. Or if you're saying, look, I'm not going to the polls because Biden is continuing to fund Israel, that's going to be a problem too. So how do we find some ground, some common ground here with that?
Yeah, that's that's a difficult question that everybody's asking. And I think a common ground space is also understanding that nothing is new under the sun. There's always an election year and always something else going on. I was not born, but I think about the apartheid movement. There was an election season going on there too, when students across the country protested about what was going on in South Africa and so on and so forth. I think, interestingly enough, we live in a time, especially with the algorithms, where whatever gets the most views seems to be the most important. That's why national news always seems to take over local news, as if both of them don't exist at the same time. And when I think about this great nation of ours, this great experiment, this democracy, we've always been very, very keen at doing many things at once. While we were at war with the Soviets, we also sent a man to the moon. So this isn't a new thing. And I think we are weaponizing the idea that we have to focus on just the election. All of these issues all connect. What is going on in Gaza and what's going on in Chicago have similarities, and what's going on in New Orleans have similarities. And I think what it is we have to start itemizing those similarities to say, hey, these are our issues, major trends here nationally, and here's how it impacts us internationally, so on and so forth. And for that reason, it's more reason why we need to be at the polls, because I think people forget we don't live in a vacuum. What happens everywhere affects us here at all times. And let us be clear, that 20-something billion, all of those billions of dollars, they're not going to these countries. They're not going to Israel. They're not going directly to Taiwan. Taiwan, yes, but most of these are funding that will go directly to American companies. Okay, so when you want to know how this affects you, we're talking about the war industrial complex. These are going to people like Lockheed, like Boeing, the people that are building these bombs, that are building these fighters. That's your money that it's going there. And I think when you can connect, that's the thing. When you can connect, because they're not one track issues. When you can connect the issues together, then I think that should put in the average person's mind why it's important to be going to the polls and utilizing all of these points to make a larger point.
Absolutely. Going back to the finances of it, let's talk a little bit about Columbia University. Then I want to get some comments from the crew here. Columbia University, and a lot of for folks, if you don't know, crew, a lot of these major big colleges are operating like businesses now. Like they have endowments. Like we've talked about Harvard's endowment, $50 billion. Like a lot of these, prestigious schools in particular, they have not just endowments. Columbia University actually has a Columbia's investment management company, which oversees the school's market assets, does have an advisory committee on socially responsible investing. This particular committee pledged that it will screen against investing in firms that operate private prisons, changing significant revenues from thermal coal. And so they're doing things on behalf of schools like businesses have been doing with advisory and investment firms and management companies. But now that's what the students are learning, that if you want to disrupt, that you got to go to where the money is, Brother Shanadu. And that's what students at Columbia, students at Barnard, students at Emerson, students at all these other schools, they're saying, let's go to where the money is and let's go and follow that paper trail. And it's going to be quite interesting to see what is uncovered in this part of it, because now when you're talking about that much money, not just billions coming from the United States government, but when you're talking about millions of billions coming from these Ivy League colleges, right? Based upon tuition that's coming from students, right? Then students are asking the question, are these colleges complicit in funding genocide in Israel and Gaza? Man, oh man. All right, let me go to what the crew is saying. Because folks are checking in from all around the country. And I'm very, very happy to hear that. Let me see. Willie, you said the United States is in a vice grip. Israel is the only strategic ally in the Middle East, which makes the moves in Iran problematic. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Brother Willie, for posting that. Life Coach D, you said the question is, why have they not stopped and why are we supporting it? The Palestinians are like black folks in America. I hear that, Life Coach D. You're absolutely right. Jared Wilson, you said, proud of the students. They are braver than these old adults who are killing the country, Brother Shanadu. Wow. Brian Christian, Brian, thank you for checking in. You said Israel's anger is leading into bitterness, which they need to avoid, or else they'll become much worse than their enemies. They got something in their mind too, Brother Brian. They got something in their mind. Thank you for posting that. Ruben Willis, you said, no doubt, we will be pulled into another situation if Trump gets into office, not because of dislike for Trump, but because of his policies. We don't fit into any of them. That's the implication of this. That's the implication. Look, I got to take another quick pause. When we come back, let's get more of your take on this as I'm checking in with my brother Shanadu, and of course with you as we talk about students urging for the divestment of colleges from Israel. Is this going to be the toothpick? Is this thing going to be the outlier or the catalyst or the starting point for changing the relationship the United States has with Israel? Stay with me. We'll continue the conversation on the other side here on TheCulture on the Black Star Network.
I need you to scream for your new beginning. 5, 4, 3, 2. I need you to shout for it. I need you to shout for it. It won't always be like this. Sooner or later, Welcome to the greatest season of your life. Hug somebody. Welcome.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
All right, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my brother Shanadu Wakofor. Brother Shanadu, as we're talking about students urging for their schools to divest from ties with Israel, it got me thinking about, during the break, I was just thinking about, we're in a very different time, and you have a different college student right now. And I'm talking about not just black college students, but you're talking about those who are Arab Americans and Latinos. And there are different college students right now. And it's interesting, and I think you will understand this, that people have put these boxes on our next generation of young leaders and telling them stuff like, it's not time, hold on, wait, all of the same things that many of us have been told when we were young, when we were out in the street and being highly passionate about these things. And I just want to get your take on this, brother, in terms of what is the proper, or what's the best way that we can approach this generation of college students, especially in light of where they're not seeing what the future of America is looking like. If they're looking at the foreign policy, they're looking at all of these social justice issues, they're looking at an election situation that is a rematch between a president and a criminal. They're not happy right now. This next generation doesn't feel the love right now, bro. So how do we have a conversation? How do we make sure that black college students, Latinos, but just college students in general really are supported? Because I feel like some of us are ready to jump ship when it comes to them and their passion, their activism, and their ability to speak truth to power.
I find it interesting that this idea of time, it's never the right time. I find that funny. That's always seems to be the tagline of everybody should be waiting. And I think it comes from a place of being fearful of change. What is this? Why are you interrupting what exists? And I think that's a tale as old as time to the story of Jesus, where it's like, who is this person coming at this time doing this and doing that? I think the students are doing everything absolutely right, because when you think about education, at least the way I see it, a lot of times education becomes theoretical.
Right.
You're reading stories about history and you believe that it's something that happened a gajillion years ago. The reason why I support student protest is because you are actually taking the theoretical and moving it to the practicum. You're actually knowing that what you're reading isn't far from you. It's right now. And it's time for you to do something. And I think it's always the best time for students, because I think students, they have the least to lose. You're in school, you're protected by some of the rights of the institution. You're protected by the folks who have that similar thought. You're not out in the world where you're now you're censored by where you work or the type of lifestyle you live or where you live or so on and so forth. I think it's unfortunate that history hasn't changed, that students have we forgot the civil rights movement? They told the students that that's not the time to. The same talking points. Even in Columbia itself in the 60s, this is not new to any of these institutions. I'm actually glad. I think that the students could, from Columbia, should come down to the HBCUs and get a lesson on what it's like after you're not well funded, because we know what that feels like to not have a whole bunch of funding but still make a difference. I think these students are brave. I think these students are unbought. I think these students are diverse because there is this idea that this is just these rebel rousers, these nincompoops, these pro-Palestinians, anti-Israeli. And what I find interesting is there's a lot of Israeli students who don't want this either. And interestingly enough, no one is saying that we're anti-Jewish. It's never been said. It's not what you usually hear. What it is we're anti-war. And you hear this statement all over. Back in the days with the communists, when people were anti-war, they called you a commie lover. When you were anti Jim Crow or anti-slavery, you were a nigger lover. Do you see that this game plan hasn't changed?
Yeah,
so these students are brave, and to whom much is given, much is required. I think they are standing on the shoulders of history. The only thing is, and I would caution every student, because I've been there, as you are in the throes of what's going on now, we have to be careful of what happens after, because the enemy is powerful. I'll just take you all back to 4 years ago. The entire world marched for George Floyd. The entire world. And what happened 4 years ago? Every organization, every company got serious about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then 4 years later, DEI almost ceased to exist. So we have to be careful. And I would tell the students, think about the now, but be careful about the long-term effects of what you're doing as well.
And I appreciate you for saying that, because that's exactly what students are doing. And I think that people just don't understand that sometimes you just need the fire. It's one thing to start the fire. It's another effort to guide the fire, right? And so at this point, if you're not in agreement with divestment, then you could just guide that passion, guide that fire into a different direction. But I think that people say, well, I'm not in agreement with divestment, therefore it's a stupid thing and we should have no more conversation about it. And instead, you wanted to water down the whole effort. The fact is that you got young people, the next generation, who want to see a different world, like you just said, Brother Shanadu, who are anti-war. And at the end of the day, we should all be anti-war. Nobody should want to see this level of warfare, of carnage, of genocide to take place and feel like that some goal was accomplished. In war, there is no winner. In war, there is no winner. And I think that that's important for us to keep in mind. When you have millions of people who are displaced, or you have thousands of people whose lives have been lost, how is that a victory?
Mm-hmm.
How does that is a win? In 2021, there was a study done by business school professors at the University of Pennsylvania and Stanford University found that the practice of divestment had little impact. Instead, according to that study, they said activists seeking to change a company's behavior should instead hold on to their investments and exercise any rights of control they may have to change corporate policy. Okay, but at the end of the day, will you listen to the voice of the next generation? Who, those corporations, those corporate policies are ideas that came from the minds of men and women. And you mean to tell me that you can't, are you going to bring students to the table? Are you going to be, who's going to be at the table? Some of these students are saying that the same way that there was a divestment that took place around the apartheid system in South Africa, it should be the same, it should be that level of engagement for this. But then those who are critics of this idea are saying that, Brother Shanadu, as we wrap up, I'm gonna give you like 30 seconds. But critics of this idea are saying that this is not the same situation, that is like an apples and oranges situation of trying to break down apartheid. But they're saying that the groundswell of international support is not there that we saw in apartheid. It's not there for this particular movement. So I want to get your take on that very quickly. Do you think that we are at a point of that level of groundswell where people internationally, even nationally, where people are saying enough is enough to change the system, to divest from the system?
Yes, and divestment does work. How do I know? Because the same people who are telling you divestment doesn't work are also telling you that divestment in Russia worked. taking Russia out of the SWIFT banking system that we use in the United States has been very, very helpful in crippling Russia's movement. When people say bullshit like this, I always laugh. And I don't like the example of apple and oranges, because you know what apple and oranges have in common? They're both fruits. So even though they may not be the same.
Right. That's a good point today, dude.
Even though they may not be the same. And we have to be also truthful. Like, there was a statement that you made earlier. Someone said that Israel is our biggest ally in the Middle East. What a slap in the face of Qatar. Qatar, who actually is our biggest ally in the Middle East. Qatar, who hosts the most United States troops at the Al Udeid base in outside of Doha. We have to be truthful here, or basically say what it is. Say the quiet part out loud. You don't want to do it because you don't care. When people say divestment doesn't work, I think to myself, what is the worth of every life lost in Palestine? When people say divestment doesn't work, I laugh. If this was a Chinese group, which happened here, who are trying to support a Confucius center at any of these institutions, the government will ask for them to take that money away because that person is an adversary, and based on what they're doing to their citizens and the Uyghurs and so on and so forth. Why is it now different? And that is my issue. This is not about a Jewish life or Israeli life or Palestinian life. It's why is this example that mirrors other examples, why don't they mirror the same response? Where is the keep that energy? That is my question.
I love it. Brother Sinead, my brother, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show as a culture contributor. I cannot thank you enough. You've been riding with us from the very, very beginning, brother, but you know we will continue to cross paths. But I love you, I appreciate you, and I thank you for being with me today and hold this whole process, brother. Thank you. And I look forward to continuing to work with you on the other side. But thank you, Brother Sinead.
And thank you so much for having me, brother.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's switch gears. Let's talk about sexual assault as we are continuing to do our part to make you aware about the importance of having these conversations for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Stay with us. That discussion is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, if you haven't heard, that's right, we are online at blackstarnetwork.com. Go to our website today, download the app for free, follow us on social media at Black Star Network. And of course, we would love to get your support, financial support. As you heard Brother Roland say, we need your financial support because every dollar makes a difference. Every cent matters. So your support makes a world of difference for us. And we, of course, are asking for it. And I want to thank all of those who have already supported us over the time that we've been on air on this platform, and continue to support us. But if you're thinking about supporting us, even though the culture might be changing and we're moving on, it does not mean that you should stop your support. I'm gonna just say that again. Even though we're at this point in the process, it does not mean you stop your support, because this is an important medium, an important platform for us to have these real conversations. And so I, again, hope that you will continue to support us, will continue to give something to it, to show that you are serious about making sure that there is a space for Black content like nowhere else. So I thank all of you for being with us. All right, let's switch gears a little bit, folks. Now let's talk about another big news story, which is around the issue of sexual assault and violence. Now, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And so we've been doing our part here on The Culture to make sure that we show our support for sexual assault survivors and for victims, and more importantly, having conversations about this. And it was announced that yesterday, the State Court of Appeals in New York found that the judge in the landmark Me Too case around the conviction of Harvey Weinstein. This was the former movie mogul who has been serving a 23-year sentence in a New York prison following his conviction on charges of criminal sex act, that his rape conviction from 2020 was overturned by a New York appeals court. Wow. And essentially, what will happen is that because the judge in the case did not move forward or did not prosecute the case, but there were some trial issues and errors that were in the case, with improper rulings, including a decision to let women testify about allegations that weren't part of the case. It forced the case to be has to be retried against Harvey Weinstein. And so this was a trial court error, and it admitted this testimony of uncharged alleged prior sexual acts against persons other than the compliance of the underlying crimes, because that testimony served no material non-propensity purpose. This is coming from the court's decision in a 4-3 decision by the State Court of Appeals. So they found that, guess what? Because of this trial error, because these testimonies were admitted into the case, because they did not have no real bearing on this particular case, it does not connect to this case, the case has to be retried again. And so that means that sexual assault victims, those who spoke truth to power, those who had to sit on the stand and tell their story, will have to do it again. Here to join me to talk about this, as we are again doing our part for Sexual Assault Awareness Month, is my sister. She serves as the inspirationalist. She's a lifestyle and relationships coach. And I'm so happy that she's joining me today, Coach Trinette L. Collier. Coach, thank you so much for being with me this afternoon. How you feeling?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I know that this part of this conversation is legal. So yeah. I know that that's part of this. This is like some legal stuff. But the legal issues or the legal errors led to the fact that now we're at this point where this guy, Harvey Weinstein, is going to be retried. And my issue is, outside of the legal stuff, that you got to bring sexual assault survivors back onto the stand. Yeah. And they have to tell their story, and they have to go through this process all over again, Coach. And I'm wondering to myself, why is it so hard for us to believe, not just believe the survivors, but why is it so hard for us to have a nuanced view of sexual assault in this country? Because if you go to organizations like RAIN, and I want to, encourage folks to do this if you haven't already, to check out RAIN.org. And this is the organization that works with sexual assault survivors. And it's spelled RAINN.org. But they made, it has been data after data. RAIN has posted it on their website that a huge swath of victims of sexual assault do not report to the police. Yeah. 1 out of 3 actually report. And then that number starts to get lower when you're talking about going through the process of investigating it and then showing up in court and that whole process.
Yeah.
It's a lot, Coach.
It's frustrating. It's heartbreaking, frustrating. You're angry because again, people encourage people to speak their truth, to speak forth, to come forth, and you get slapped in the face with things such as this, and to have someone to come back and relive that horrific moment, just to prove again, it's very disheartening. And this is and I'm no expert. I just dealt with it through my own experience. But you get to the point you're like, you know what, forget it. And now you have victims that are afraid, and not so much afraid anymore. They're just tired of having to relive this and retell the story over and over again, and just to see people get away with it, it's very frustrating. It's you're just mad. You're angry all over again.
I mean, and that's the part of it. We're going to take another quick pause, but that's the part of it.
Yeah.
And yesterday I had a conversation with our Music Inside, our culture contributor, my sister and friend Tasha Love, right? And we're talking about just this overall
the culture.
Just the culture of hip hop, right?
Yeah.
And I made the point yesterday to her, and she agreed with me. We celebrated 50 years of hip hop, but we're still very immature in terms of having these nuanced conversations about sexuality and sex, right? Even at 50 years, right? 50 years later. And it's like, just so as our hip hop culture is, so much it is for the American culture, where we're not having nuanced conversations. We have Sexual Assault Awareness Month. We have organizations that are helping sexual assault victims and survivors. We have all of this stuff, but then it's like victims still don't feel empowered. And I looked at how hip hop and other media, just in general, I'm using hip hop as an example, just one part of it. But I'm looking at these conversations and I'm like, we still laugh.
Very so.
We still laugh. Like we laugh at men who come out and say that they were sexually assaulted. Oh man, that's crazy. We act like men and boys don't get raped. No, men and boys don't get sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
We still don't believe women.
Or we blame.
A woman got to damn near give up her blood just to, she got to strip naked and give up her blood, show you the forensic photos in order for people to believe. Well, I want to see how do we know for sure?
Yeah. Or we continue to blame the victim, with the whole, why did they wait? And why this and why that? It's like, again, if you've never been in that situation, you don't understand. So it's like, you don't know why somebody waited. But however, when they do come forth, let's give them that safe space. We're always yelling safe space. And it's not so safe anymore. And so where do you go? Who do you talk to? What do you do? Because again, it's a slap in the face. I'm trying to prove to you that I was violated, and I'm still considered a liar, or you're just not hearing me. So I'm not understanding, and I don't know honestly what it's going to take for everyone to wake up and not laugh and not make a joke out of any of this, because this is it's just disheartening.
It's very disheartening.
It's
very disheartening. And we still have it feels like we still have miles to go to cover to even have these conversations. And I'm not concerned about other cultures in terms of how they're having a conversation.
Right.
I'm concerned about how Black folks are having a conversation in
Yes.
this country.
Yes.
And it's still something that we just don't want to talk about.
Mm-mm.
But let me tell you, like a lot of sisters, and I can't quantify it. This is unscientific.
Yeah.
A lot of Black women that I've come across
Mm-hmm.
have shared that they have been the victims of sexual abuse, sexual assault, sexual violence.
Mm-hmm. And we brush it off.
They said that.
Yeah. And it's brushed off. Believe it or not, it's brushed off in conversations, or it's oh, okay. And again, nobody offers the help, the healing process, because it is a process. You have to, start your healing journey, but no one cares to reach out and say, okay, how do I help this? Or the victim is like, okay, I don't know who to turn to because I'm shamed. I don't know. It happened some years ago. Can I still tell or whatnot? But we just do not provide. I'm not gonna say all of us, but the majority. It's just not provided that safe space for victims.
And Coach, we got to take a quick pause, but on the other side, I want to get your take on how do we do that? How do we have these conversations? How do we communicate with one another? If a man learns of that from his family member, his coworker, that she was sexually assaulted, what is the man's role? What if a woman's role?
Yeah,
I want us to know, how do we start to do that? Because I think we're doing more harm than good when we don't act as if it doesn't exist, or we don't believe people, we laugh at the situation. Even with the Diddy situation, it's just like,
right.
If that man is doing some wild things based on those allegations, then that's a real problem. That's a very real problem. We'll talk a little bit about it on the other side. Crew, post your comments as we talk about this, as we use Harvey Weinstein's overturned conviction as the backdrop for this conversation, as we continue to do our part to honor Sexual Assault Awareness Month here on TheCulture, right here on the Black Star Network. Stay with us.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. This is an opportunity for us to be able to speak to our issues. Y'all better understand something real quick. We ain't going nowhere. It is a continual battle that we see all across this country. Revolution will not be televised. The revolution will be streamed.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
He makes sure that our stories are told.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney, and if you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you.
All right, folks, welcome back to TheCulture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sister, Coach Trinette L. Collier, who is the inspirationalist. And I'm very sensitive. I try to be as sensitive as possible for having these conversations, but you are a sexual assault survivor.
Yes. Yeah.
And, I applaud you.
Thank you.
For, the courage to get on the path of healing. Because I think, Coach, that I know that a lot of men and women, but I know a lot of sisters who are still in a place of being afraid to accept what happened,
Yeah.
how it has impacted them. I mean, afraid to speak out and to tell their story.
Yeah.
But what has been the point for you? What has been your strength that in the midst of all of that, that you still found a way to get on a path of healing? How have you been able to do that?
Oh, you know what? Through my faith, prayers, and actually a good tribe of people, both men and women. And it wasn't easy when I first, because I didn't talk about it at all. When it first happened to me, I did not, I think I shared it with one girlfriend at that time.
How
And
long did you wait, if you don't mind me asking, Coach?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I was just asking, how long did you wait until you really came out to tell that story?
You want to know the truth?
I want to know the truth. Hey, look, this is the culture. We keep it 100 on head.
2017, and this happened to me in 1992, 93.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was almost like 25 years.
Yeah. And my therapist had to actually bring it out in me. She is, and I thank God for her. She actually told me that I was holding something in, and it had to do with sexual assault. I had never shared this, but because of the behaviors, and this is why I advocate for therapists and counselors and whatnot, because they are trained, because of the things that had happened to me in my life and the patterns. You know, they're trained to recognize different patterns over time. And she said, "You never talked about this incident." And lo and behold, I was like, oh, wow. So it wasn't during the first or second session, but she provided that space for me to release it. And once I did release it, it was like, woo, okay. You know, because again, I felt shamed. I felt like no one would understand me because I felt like I put myself in that situation, you know, being in college and whatnot. And so I didn't understand. So all of these things just kept running through my head like it was my fault. However, you know, with the grace and mercy of God and like I said, my family and so forth, I was able to make it through that healing process. But I had to be determined to heal from it. You know, like I always say, there's a determination. I could have and could have still sat with it and, you know, let it continue to eat me up, but I didn't want that, you know, because eventually I understood that it was not my fault, you know. But yeah, I sat on it. I buried it. I buried it through my work, through school. I buried it through life, you know, and I never revisited. I never talked about it again until 2017.
Wow.
Yeah. And you have so many women and men that are holding these memories or holding these traumas from childhood. You know,
and you know what? And you know, I want to take another quick pause, but when we come forward, I want to ask you one big question, because I'm sure this question has been asked of you before.
Yeah.
But I'm really just like blown away because your story. I mean, of course, I know who you were, you know, about you off camera.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that part.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that part. But
yeah,
it's there's that one question that I want to ask you on the other side. So you know, I want to get your take on this. Crew, let's continue to talk about this. We're talking about Harvey Weinstein conviction being overturned for his rape, for the rape that he did back in 2020. We're talking a little bit about that, but of course we're doing our part here on The Culture to make sure that sexual assault awareness is high, as this is the month to have those conversations, and hopefully it will set a new precedent for how we talk about sexual assault and sex and sexuality in the culture. Stay with us. The conversation continues on the other side here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. This is an opportunity for us to be able to speak to our issues. Y'all better understand something real quick. We ain't going nowhere. It is a continual battle that we see all across this country. Revolution will not be televised. The revolution will be streamed.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
He makes sure that our stories are told.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by Coach Trinette L. Collier as we talk about sexual assault. We're talking about the latest news coming out of New York where former film mogul Harvey Weinstein, his conviction was overturned due to a trial court error, an error that has caused a little bit of a problem because now his trial for his rape conviction of 2020 has to be retried, which means that victims and survivors have to come back onto the stand to relive telling their story and essentially have to confront the trauma in this pivotal case around the Me Too movement. And Coach was just talking about her personal story of overcoming some of the shame and the silence of sexual assault after nearly 25 years of being quiet about it. Coach, again, that's inspirational in the fact that at even 25 years later, you still said, you know what, I need to speak, tell my story, speak my truth, and stand up and not allow this to play such a major role in your life. And that's, like you mentioned, the power of therapy. And I'm a huge advocate of therapy. I've gone to therapy. I'm a huge advocate of therapy. Look, if y'all have some problems with therapy, that means you ain't talking to the right therapist.
Hey, listen.
I'm telling you, my therapist was, man, my therapist was phenomenal.
Right, a BFF.
She was phenomenal. You know what I'm saying? But she helped me in so many different ways to understand certain things, right? But if you have a problem with therapy, you ain't going to your right therapist. That ain't the therapist for you.
Right.
Because there's no way a professional, and I love how you said this, Trinette, a professional who is trained, who understands, who can get to the source of the problem, and then help you out of that dark space, and help you out of your own confusion and head talk, and get into a place of clarity. Come on.
Right. Yeah. That is so true.
All right, so here's my question for you, Trinette. And I know Culture crew members are checking in. My question is, people will say that when we hear stories like people who wait so many years, why did that person wait so many years? And I know you've heard this question numerous times.
Yeah.
But as a sexual assault survivor, what do you say to those who always pose that question to people who have been assaulted? You kind of question them on when they should speak about their trauma. Okay, I'm gonna let that go. I'm gonna let that go. Well, how do you respond to that?
Listen, after no one knew, again, my family didn't know, no one knew, right? But when I mentioned it in my book that when it was released in 2013, so people kind of was speculating or whatnot. And then the question did come like, okay, when or why did you wait so long? Because I only touched bases on it a little bit in the book. However, I didn't go in depth about it until 2017, until after my mother died, and the therapy, I was going to therapy. And so afterwards, people did ask me, why did you wait so long? And the only thing I could tell them was, I don't know. Part of me, I was still scared. A huge part of that, I was ashamed, because I always considered myself this strong woman, that would make good decisions. And and at that time I was like, how could I be so stupid, and to invite somebody over and this, that, and the other. And so that played a part of my part of that journey. I was really ashamed of what the decision I made that night. And so that's why I did not come forth. And a lot of women, and then the third part of it, who was going to believe me? Because there were no cameras at that time, who was going to believe me? The question would come, well, why did you have somebody over your house? And the whole time stamp this, that, and other. And so when I continued to have, when I started thinking about that, I was just like, I'm good, right? And so I continue to bury it over time. I kind of, in a sense, you don't forget about it, but you just push it way back, and you just keep it moving, right? And when you get with other people, when you connect with other people who've gone through, it gives you a sense of hope, like, okay, they shared, they talked about it. But again, it wasn't until my therapist allowed a safe place for me. And I'm talking the tears, everything. And she gave me that permission to let it out. And again, it didn't happen in just one session or two sessions, but each time I went back, she gave me that permission to write it out, to scream it out, to share how I was feeling, how it made me feel. She gave me that safe space. Literally.
And it makes a world of difference.
It makes a world of difference,
It makes a world of difference.
It does. I even tell people, even if you don't, I get it. Everyone is not comfortable with going to a therapist, right? I get that. I truly understand, because that's a courageous moment, right? But even if you don't, and I think we talked about this earlier in the year, you have to find somebody that is safe enough in your family to release this to. You have to find some type of friend that you can trust to release this to, because it's not healthy to have it lingering in your spirit, in your heart, in your mind, on a daily. It's not healthy. So you have to find somebody or some place where you can, even if you have to get to an organization where you can write this out, or tell someone. I don't suggest. I tell my nieces and nephews to this day, if anybody violates you, you have the right to tell it ASAP. Come to me. We're going to go to the police. We're going to do whatever we can. But what you will not do is keep this lingering in your spirit for decades and years. You have that right to tell.
That's interesting. You don't like my music. You said something, and I'm loving what the crew is saying, Trinette. The comments are, man, y'all don't. Whew, this is why this has been such an emotional week for me. Because this is a community. This is really a community. You don't like my music. You said, my sister once said, people wouldn't need so many therapists if they had good friends.
Yes.
Whew, that's heavy. Now, that's heavy. So you don't like my music. I appreciate you, man, for posting that. But let me just share just what a couple of our crew members, two men, and Brother Willie and Brother Steve, I cannot thank y'all enough to feel like this is a safe space to even share your story. Brother Willie, you said, I'm a sexual assault survivor twice over. Once when I was younger than 5, and over 2 years between 8 through 10 years old. I've never considered it traumatic for me. Then you went on to say, Brother Willie, once I got older, because they were only a few years older than me, I wondered who did it to them. So first and foremost, Brother Willie, it takes a lot of courage as a man to acknowledge that, to say that in the public space. And I hope and pray, man, that you have been getting all the support that you need, the love that you need. You've been on a path of healing. But I know you're healing because you told your story in a public space like that.
Yes.
I'm serious.
Listen, as a former educator, I learned, I had not a lot, I won't say a lot, but I had quite a few young Black boys who had been sexually assaulted, raped, molested, and all of that. And what I noticed over time, nobody gave them that space to heal or even talk about.
Come on.
And that burned a hole in my soul. And that is why I created my own safe space for Black men. And when I did that, the number of men who, this is not my expertise, this is not, but when I allowed them to share on my shows what had happened to them, I mean, the release. And when I tell men, especially Black men, it's okay. You have supporters who are going to be behind you. You're going to have somebody you're going to have some people behind you, wrapping around you, loving on you because you shared your story. I encourage and I applaud anybody, especially men, who can come out and share that, because I know if it's hard for a woman to share, I know it is extremely hard for a man and a Black man to share it. So we have to get back to that community, to that culture of embracing each other and not brushing it off because y'all are men.
Yeah.
It burns my soul. And we do nap at it. I've had other people to say, oh, he a man. That shouldn't have. What? Somebody violated you, so what is funny about that? So look, I don't want to get off topic.
I get it. No, I get the passion. Trust me. Because and you know what? That's why I always try to set aside some time to have these conversations, because man, this thing is ripping our communities apart.
Yes.
It's tearing up families, Black families apart. Yes. The silence, the shame, the secrecy. It's tearing us apart, man.
Yeah.
The abuse, right? We not talking of, we say, oh, that's Uncle so-and-so, but y'all know. And you know what I mean? Versus saying, man, we had to really deal with this. And this ain't on some street justice stuff. No. This is just simply on a family taking responsibility and holding people accountable for doing harm to, quote unquote, the other family members, the people that they say they love and they want to be around and support.
Yeah. We're not listening.
That's the part about this. Let me take this, and then we're going to take a quick pause. Steve G, another one. Thank you, Steve, for speaking out and sharing your truth. You said, I spent a good chunk of my life simply trying to cope with what had happened myself. Once God brought me to that place, and I told my mom years later, and got that question, why so long? Steve went on to say, part of me felt like, why did you not know? But yes, it takes a toll.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And see, and here's the other thing. Here's the other thing about this. Sisters, y'all come into these spaces and connections with us as Black men, and not knowing the full story. And I'm not justifying any type of mistreatment of women and saying, well, Black men have been damaged. Black men have been damaged, but you just got to understand, like, how to be sensitive about that, right?
Yes.
Because if a Black man is telling you, or if any man is telling you that he experienced some sort of sexual assault, sexual violence, anything like that, that means he must really believe that you are a safe space. Now, here's the thing. If you can't handle that, the best thing that you do, and I saw Brian, I saw your quote, your post very quickly. Brian, you said, but I wouldn't recommend having your friends be your therapist since they aren't trained for that kind of stuff.
Right.
The thing about good friendships is if you don't know, then you encourage your friend to go to somebody who does know.
Right. Right.
And that's what good friends do. Like, look, this is too heavy for me. You can always talk to me, but this is kind of like out of my capacity. But I love you. I'm going to still accept you for who you are. But I think you need to go see a therapist.
Yeah. We have to
have. Because I can't speak on that. I can't, as a friend, you should be able to say, look, I'm all in with you. I will
Right.
take you to therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I will help you set up appointments, but I can't
Right.
carry that because I'm not
I'm not
skilled to
equipped
carry
for it.
that.
Right. Right. And we just got to learn how to. I just never understood the whole laughing and making fun and asking that question. Like,
Yeah,
it
it's
doesn't
a heavy
matter.
thing. It's a heavy
Like,
burden.
don't ask me that. I don't know why. And why does it matter to you? You know, why you wait so long? So I think we need to eliminate that question.
It
You
does. I
know,
agree. And, and
eliminate
and
that
going
question.
back to, and I think that is a huge indicator of victim blaming.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It is.
We can't, there's no timeline for somebody's pain to be shared, for their story to be told, for their grief to be experienced. There's no timeline for that.
Right. So I think once we start eliminating that, then you're going to have more people open
That's
and
right.
willing to come forth
Great point.
and share, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I thank you, brothers, for posting your
Yes.
stories. Our hearts and prayers are always will be with you as you on your healing path, but to all of the sisters as well, to all of the women that are
Yes.
watching today. Look, you're not alone.
You're not.
You are not alone. And regardless of what the culture may think or how people may talk about this, be able to find your strength,
Yes.
tell your story, and start the healing process.
Exactly.
But folks, I would highly recommend that you check in with rain.org. And there are so many other resources for sexual assault and sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, just be aware, be a part of the conversation and helping others to heal.
Yes.
We got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's switch gears. We're going to be checking in with our very, very special guest. He is doing some fantastic work of empowering young people and helping them in cultural experiences. We're going to be checking in with Corinne McCall, founder of Sankofa Bridge, on the other side. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network, joined by my sister, Coach Trinette L. Collier. And I just want to very quickly, before we bring in our very special guest, Corinne McCall, I want to acknowledge P. Jackson, another man in the chat, another brother. He said his friends started blaming and questioning him and threw him into silence when he shared his story. So P. Jackson, I thank you for coming out of your silence and speaking your truth, brother, because we definitely need that now more than ever. More men to say, you know what, enough is enough. And look, when friends get around there, look, man, this ain't rocket science. Very quickly, this is not rocket science when it comes to some elements of relationship. If your friend's not supportive of your pain, not supportive of you opening up and sharing, man, you better find some new friends, man.
Cut it. Cut them. Cut them off.
I don't play don't play no games. I don't care how long, because people think, oh, well, we've known each other since elementary school and we had this experience. It's all well and good.
Right.
But your friend is supposed to lift you up when you down.
Exactly.
It's supposed to listen when you can't hear. It's supposed to see when you don't know where you're going. And at this point, man, I don't need no friends like that.
Right.
I didn't know. I was just trying to. Nah, buddy. Nah, I opened up to you.
Not at all.
Only one time.
Let them go.
One time. Especially when it's something that sensitive and I'm opening up to you.
Yeah.
Nah. P. Jackson, my brother, you got support. And I thank you, man, for not being silent about it. All right, let's bring in our very special guest. She's doing a fantastic job of empowering youth and cultural experiences. My sister, Corinne McCall, founder of Sankofa Bridge. Corinne, thank you so much for joining us here on The Culture. How are you this afternoon?
Great. How are you? How's everyone?
We're doing well. I appreciate your patience. Just had a very, very important conversation. I I wanted to, bring you and have you talk about the work that you're doing with Sankofa Bridge. This is and I want to direct folks, check out the website at sankofabridge.org. That's the website, sankofabridge.org. Corinne, I'm going to give you the space and the place for you to talk about the great work that you are doing. What is Sankofa Bridge?
So at Sankofa Bridge, we're a nonprofit organization. And what we do is we provide cultural experiences to youth, between the ages of 15 to 17. And we specifically focus on youth at this time in New York City and in Westchester County. Eventually, the program will expand. Our flagship program that we have is a travel program. So we call it the Sankofa Travel Program. And what we'll do is we'll take children on trips nationally, and we'll do one international trip per year. So we're fairly new. We're a fairly new organization. So we're starting kind of in the middle of the program year this year, but we plan on taking children to the theater, to a Broadway show and to dinner, to the Schomburg Museum, different cultural experiences, even to music concerts, to Carnegie Hall, to see the Alvin Ailey dancers, to Puerto Rico, Puerto Rico, to New Orleans. There's a huge, rich culture in New Orleans, and I think children need to be exposed to the different cultures that are available. And then we're doing one international trip this year, and the trip that we're doing is to Ghana in West Africa. And these experiences for the youth are 100% cost-free, at no cost to the child or the parent.
And Corinne, I want to, first and foremost, this sounds fantastic, but you named this, yes, and she definitely deserves a round of applause for that work. But the name Sankofa Bridge, for some of us who may not be familiar with that terminology, what does that mean?
Okay, so Sankofa is an Akan word from Ghana, specifically from the Akan language, the Akan people from Ghana. And so Sankofa means to go back and get it. And there are two symbols for Sankofa. One is a fictional bird, and that bird is facing forward, but its head is turned and it's looking backward. And the reason why it's looking behind itself is because it's remembering where it came from. It's remembering the experiences that it had, and it's using that knowledge to move forward in life. And there's a nugget that sits inside the mouth of that bird. And that nugget represents the knowledge that it's gained. And then it's going to take that knowledge to move forward. And that's why I named the organization Sankofa. The bridge is who we are. We are bridging the cultural connections from the present to the past. We're just bridging connections.
Now, and Trinette, please jump in as we're talking to our sister here. But Corinne, I'm wondering, get the words out. I'm wondering, is this something just for Black youth, or is this something for all youth?
It's open to all youth. However, yes, we do have a focus on Black youth. So many of us, I have learned, even as adults, don't even own a passport, have never traveled outside of sometimes the state. And sometimes if they have traveled, it's to say, oh, I went down south to see family. So, but they don't have passports. And so I want to provide children with these cultural experiences and these opportunities that I was afforded as a youth. And I know that with this experience, it can just open up a plethora of opportunities for them. Because if you can see it, you can be it. And so I need children to see what is out there. I need them to see dancers. I need them to see Broadway actors, live performers. I need them to travel the world and experience these different cultures so that they can then take those experiences, internalize them, and use them as they move forward in life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Trinette, what's your question for Corinne?
I love that. As a former educator, this is what we need. My question would be for you, what age group, what age range, and why did you choose that age range?
That's actually a great question. So the age range at this time is 15 to 17 years old. The reason why we chose that age range is because of the international travel component. So I didn't want to take a child too young overseas. I want them to be somewhat independent, and I want their parent to actually have some trust. So I know that, a 15 to 17 years old, they're nearing adulthood. And I think they're more independent, and they'll be able to handle themselves a little better as we travel overseas. I think as the program progresses, we'll probably expand our program, and we'll start to venture out to different states and take children from other states, and also expand the age group that we currently have in place.
And I'm wondering, is this where is this coming from in terms of providing these type of cultural experiences? Have you found that Black youth in particular are becoming very limited in their worldview, or what was the for you to say, you know what, we need to expose them to some things? What was the catalyst for that?
Actually, it started with my own mother. So my mother, when I was a child, she took me as many places as she could. She took me to Broadway shows and dinners and plays, and she took me to the Schomburg Museum and Carnegie Hall. She took me everywhere, and she was always saying to me, I need you to expand your cultural horizons. I need you to be exposed to different cultural experiences. It will change. It's life-changing. And so that's something I kind of took for granted because it was given to me so freely. And as I got older, I started to realize, honestly, in the dating pool and just having friends and just meeting people in general, that a lot of people that I've come across have not had that experience and they have not traveled. And I think traveling to me expanded my cultural horizons. And also children sometimes, especially our youth, when I say our, I mean Black youth, tend to have this proverbial glass ceiling over their heads. So they don't see what they can actually become. And so they start to feel ownership of their block, ownership of, their block, their city. And they say, this is my block. And they get this sense of ownership and don't even own any property on it. And so I need them to see that the world is yours, not just your block, not just your city, not the state, not the country. The world is yours and sky's the limit. You can achieve and become anything that you want to be.
Absolutely. That is, as Terrence Bolden checked in on as part of our crew, he said, that's real talk, sister.
Thank you.
That is very much real talk. All right, look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we'll continue the conversation with Kareem McCall. We'll continue the conversation with Coach Trinette L. Collier and, of course, crew with you. Stay with us. It's The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sister and the inspirationalist herself, Coach Trinette L. Collier, as well as our very special guest today, Kareem McCall, who serves as the founder of Sankofa Bridge. Now, Kareem was just talking to us about the great work she's doing with exposing young people, 15 to 17-year-olds, to international travel and expanding their horizon. And I think a lot of our people understand, especially now, that travel is such an important part of the cultural experience. I've had a chance to travel overseas and in some other places, just even around the country, because I don't, Kareem, I don't want us to kind of like diminish the fact that, I'm here in the West Coast in Los Angeles, but you can go into Chicago. It's a different cultural experience. You can go to Miami. My sister Trinette is down in Atlanta, ATL. You know what I'm saying? So it's a different cultural experiences even within the boundaries. What do you say to those black students who may not exposed to those type of cultural experience, and to understand that even in the very country that you're born in, that this is still a land of great diversity, a lot of different cultures, a lot of cultural experiences? How do you help them to see that they're in a space that they probably will never, that they have a chance to explore?
Well, I think that speaks to the national component of our travel program. And so that's kind of what I want to do. So I'm going to start locally with the theater shows. I mean, all of that is happening locally, but then I'm also going to take them out to Washington, D.C. so that they can go to the museum there, to the National Museum there. I'm also going to take them, like I said, to Louisa, Puerto Rico, which is considered a part of the United States. So one thing that I learned is that Louisa, Puerto Rico has the largest Afro-Latino culture. A lot of Africans migrated, or not, I shouldn't say migrated, were taken to Puerto Rico, and they have this, they still maintain their Afro culture there. And so that's one of the reasons why I specifically said Louisa, Puerto Rico. That's why I mentioned New Orleans earlier. Their culture is, their cultural there is just so expansive. I mean, I went to New Orleans and I was blown away. I mean, just right here, like you said, right here in the United States, there are just so many opportunities for different cultural experiences that, to be honest, I really don't even need to leave the continent. I don't even need to leave the United States of America. But the reason why I'm doing it is because I want to make sure that these children get a passport, and I want to make sure that they get on a plane and they fly somewhere and they see something that is completely different than what they're used to and what they've experienced, even here in the United States. It's a completely different experience when you're taken to a place where they're speaking a different language, where their culture is a culture that we came from and was stolen from us. And so I want to take them back there. It's not just Ghana. Ghana is just this year. There's also Egypt. You know, I'll be taking them to Egypt. I'll be taking them to different countries around the world, including Spain. Spain is another one. However, to your point, to your question, within the United States, we have such a wide variety of different cultures.
Yeah.
That is one of the reasons why I want to make sure that I take them to different states so that they can see some of what maybe they don't learn in school, because school gives us a very limited perspective of our own culture. And so we need to understand those differences and what they are, but then also the similarities. And so that's what the plan is. That's what my goal is.
And what has been some of your biggest challenges?
Oh, fundraising.
Oh, it's the money. It's the money.
Fundraising.
Right.
It's a challenge. It definitely is a challenge, but it's going to happen regardless, because this is something that is a calling. It's something that I'm called to do. So no matter what the challenge is, we'll get through it. But definitely money has been a huge challenge. Other than that, everything is great.
Everything is great.
Everything
and talk to us a little bit about the feedback that you've gotten from these 15 to 17-year-olds. Do you see, you know, I've heard some people use this term, do you see the glimmer in their eyes once they, come back home, or once they set their foot on international soil? What kind of feedback have you gotten?
Well, first of all, the children, they love it. They definitely, this is something that they want to do. Their parents ask me all the time, can you take adults? Can I come with you? You know, can I join the program?
No, you can't unless you give me some money.
Yeah, the feedback has just been overwhelming. It's just been incredible. Everyone has been so supportive. Yeah. And I think people see the vision, and it doesn't take much for me to sell it to them. They already are aware. People know, they know the benefit in traveling. They understand it. And this is something that they really want for themselves, but they also want for their children. And it's an opportunity. And I think the fact that there's no price tag attached to it, it's like, wait a minute. Some people actually think, are you for real? Is this a joke? And some people are not that forthcoming. Some people are a little skeptical, but there should be no skepticism involved. We are a nonprofit organization. We are registered. So this is just an experience that I want to give, and I want to give it back to others. I want to pay my experiences forward. So that's
Coach
it.
Finette, let's Coach, as we wrap up the conversation in the show. I don't even know if Karine if she's an angel or.
Yeah, listen, I had to put myself on mute because I'm back here just like yes, somebody gets it. I applaud you. I do want to ask: is this will this be a cohort? Like, will you take certain amount of students and each year they experience this, or it's a first come first serve type of thing? How does that work?
There's a certain amount of students that we will take. However, it is first come, first serve. As long as, there's certain criteria that the students have to meet. So your age group is just one criteria, right? But there's also other criteria, such as you need to have a recommendation letter from someone, so that's another criteria. And it could be a teacher, it could be a person in your community, like a leader in your community, it could be a pastor, but it could be a government official from your community. But somebody should recommend you and say, and another big one is that you have to come from a low income household. So I want to give this opportunity to children whose parents cannot afford to give it to them. And so your household has to be 55,000 or below. Of course, there may be some exceptions. Like, say, for example, if one family has like 6 kids, then there might be an exception there, but it has to be a low income household or an at-risk youth, something like that. And so there's a few things that we look for, but basically it's first come, first serve. As long as you put in the application and you meet the criteria, you're welcome to come with us.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. We got a few moments left, Karina. I want to give you a chance to once again put out all the details and any type of social media info, anything that you can give to get people involved in supporting you, because that's the big thing. Definitely supporting the work you're doing.
Yes. So our website is sankofabridge.org. And we are, like I mentioned, we are a nonprofit organization, 501c3, and all donations are tax exempt. If you would like to make a donation, please do so at sankofabridge.org/donate. We will be happy for any donation of any size. It doesn't matter how small or how big it is. We are grateful and thankful for all donations. And so if you have any additional questions, feel free to contact me. We have a contact form right on the website. And I'm here and I'm available for all calls and all questions. I thank you all.
Oh, Corinne, thank you so much for the great work. I mean, this sounds like a phenomenal program. You got Trinette's approval right there. So
I signed up already.
There you go.
I just signed up the email.
You're doing it. You're doing it. You're doing it real big. Corinne, thank you so much for the work. And more importantly, thank you for exposing young people to these phenomenal experiences. And of course, we thank you for being so good for the culture. Thank you, Corinne, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Man, oh man. All right, Coach Trinette. Man, oh man.
Don't you do it?
Hey, I'm not. Okay, I'm not. It's just the lighting in my eye.
Listen.
It's been an honor, a privilege, a pleasure. It's been an honor, a privilege, a pleasure. That's it.
It is. And you already know. I already told you.
It's been an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure.
I thank you so much.
Coach, how can we connect with you?
At all social media platforms. I am TrinetteLCollier.com. I am Trinette L. Collier on all.
Look at that. Look at that. Look at Coach.
That's me.
Wait, put that back up there. Hey, let's take off. Let's take off the L3. Let's take off the little 3. There we go.
Listen,
beautiful picture. You looking all bright and sunny.
I could get made up now. Y'all ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh, snap. You from? Oh, yeah. I feel you.
But I thank you so much for this opportunity. It has been phenomenal. Changed my life. It has been phenomenal. Thank you.
I am.
Thank you.
Forever. You're welcome. You know, let me just say that. You're welcome. I am grateful for you to join me. And I know we had a short period of time, but
it seemed like we've been family forever. That's how. So listen, thank you. Proud of you. We're gonna leave it at that.
Let's leave it at that. Coach Trinette L. Collier. Make sure y'all follow her on all social media platforms. And she has a phenomenal insight about relationships and family dynamics and all of those things. So I am so grateful she was able to join us at least for a few months here on The Culture. And I thank you so much, Coach. And I hope and can pray that you continue to be so good for the culture. But I know you will. I know you will be. Thank you. Folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you. Big shout out to Desta Henry. Desta, thank you so much for your contribution today, being a Bring the Funk fan club member. And she gave us a little something special. Intense Situation. Thank you so much. Gave us a little something $9.99, little something to put in the bucket. I appreciate you in Tense Situation for your donation and just your overall support. Thank you for joining us in the chat as well and adding to the conversation. And it makes all the difference in the world. Folks, I am not doing this right now, but I appreciate y'all so much. Tomorrow will be the final show, but we can look forward to having some great conversations. I'm looking forward to checking in with my sister, Kimberly Morrow, checking in with Corinna Denise. I got to get Suzette on here. You got to get Suzette. And of course, we'll close everything out. But I thank and pray for each and every one of you. Look, stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go to our website at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app. Follow us on social media at Black Star Network. And more importantly, support the platform. If nothing else, just support the platform. Call on making sure that this thing stays up and running. We need it. We absolutely need it. Your support shows that we need it. Your support shows that we can do it. Make sure y'all support the platform. All right? All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for the final edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Talk to you soon. Peace.